When did you have to choose between keeping a promise and saving your marriage? My best friend Claire was dying and needed me to make her a promise that would destroy my marriage. We were sitting in the hospice room while her 3 kids colored in the hallway when she grabbed my hand and asked me to adopt them after she was gone. Her boys were 11 and 9, and her daughter had just turned 7. Their dad had overdosed 2 years earlier, and with Claire's parents dead and her sister in Germany, there was nobody else. I wanted to say yes immediately, but my husband had already told me that if I even considered taking them, we were done. Our son Caleb was 12 and severely autistic, requiring constant supervision that consumed our entire lives. My husband worked nights so I could work days, and we tagged each other like wrestlers because Caleb couldn't be left alone for 5 minutes without potentially hurting himself. We hadn't been on a date in 3 years, or had a conversation that wasn't about therapy schedules or medications. Adding 3 traumatized kids would push us past our breaking point, and he had made it clear he would leave before letting that happen. But Claire was the only person who showed up when Caleb was diagnosed while everyone else disappeared. She brought groceries when I couldn't leave the house and watched him during meltdowns so I could shower and never acted like we were a burden. The social worker visited the day after Claire died, and the visit went exactly as I expected. Caleb had a meltdown when she arrived and spent 40 minutes hitting himself while I tried to calm him down. My husband stood in the corner with arms crossed while the social worker took notes and asked how we would manage 3 additional children when we were clearly overwhelmed. He laughed out loud at that question and walked out slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. The kids were in emergency foster placement for 72 hours, then would be separated into different homes unless families stepped forward to take them. The oldest had started wetting the bed and refusing to eat while the middle boy wouldn't speak and just sat humming and rocking. The little girl kept asking when mommy was coming back from heaven. My husband found me crying in Caleb's room and delivered the ultimatum I had been dreading since Claire asked for my promise. If you do this, I'm filing for divorce and seeking primary custody of Caleb because you're being irresponsible with his care. The words came out flat and mechanical, the way he processed anything too heavy to feel. Part of me understood because Caleb would suffer if we tried integrating 3 grieving children into our controlled routine. But the oldest had memorized every Pokemon and could talk about them for hours, which would connect with Caleb's identical obsession. The middle child moved like a ghost and wouldn't disturb Caleb's need for predictability, while the little girl understood different meant special because Claire had taught her that. These weren't random foster kids, but children who knew our house and called me auntie with nobody else who even knew their middle names. The foster family called that night because the little girl wouldn't stop screaming, and the oldest had tried running away twice looking for my house. The little girl's wailing came through the phone, begging for her mommy or me or anyone who smelled familiar, while the foster mother asked if I could fix this over the phone. My husband watched from the doorway as I lied that everything would work out when we both knew the system would swallow them whole. You can't save everyone, he said after I hung up, but these were 3 kids who deserved better than being parceled to strangers. The next day, I stared at adoption papers that could rescue Claire's babies or cost me my marriage and potentially custody of Caleb. My supervisor found me sobbing in the supply closet and sent me home, where my husband had already packed a suitcase that waited by the door like a threat. That night, Caleb had his worst meltdown in months, and it took both of us to keep him from injuring himself against the bathroom tile. We sat exhausted on his bedroom floor at 3 in the morning while he slept between us, and my husband said something that changed everything. What happens to them if we don't take them? Because you'll never forgive yourself, and I'll have to watch you die inside a little more each day. The silence stretched until I explained they would be separated and age out, bouncing between placements, never recovering from losing their mom and each other. He stared at Caleb's face for so long I thought he had fallen asleep sitting up, then said, Caleb needs consistency, but maybe he also needs to see families don't give up on each other when things get impossible. Someday we won't be here, and someone will have to make this choice about him. We signed the papers together the next morning and picked up 3 terrified kids who clung to us like they were drowning, and somehow they made our broken family whole again.